Wardrobe for the Bass Tour Anglers podcast is provided by Koppel Outfitters. Go have an adventure. Visit them online at www.koppeloutfitters.com and on social media at Koppel Outfitters. This segment of the Bass Tour Anglers podcast is brought to you in part by Top Tier Tackle. With over 30 years of experience in the rod building industry, look for Top Tier's XT, Affinity, and Valor series this fall, wherever fine tackle is sold. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our trending segment. Our guest today is just finishing his 36th year as a tour pro. He's got 9 FLW Cup appearances, 8 Bassmaster Classic appearances, 36 top 10 finishes, 5 second places, 2 Pro Tour wins. He defines what it means to be a professional angler as he's very active in creating content on his Intuitive Angling YouTube channel. Please welcome Randy Blauket. Randy, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, nice to be here.
I got to say, I am a big fan of your post-tournament comments that you post. I'm a big fan of the stuff. I mean, you give us an opportunity to get inside the head of a pro. We see the struggles when it's tough. We see the good times when it's good. It's a pleasure to watch that stuff.
Appreciate it. You know, that the whole YouTube deal, man, I'm really enjoying it a lot because it gives you a chance to not only interact, with other people in the sport, pass along some tips, but it gives me a chance to vent frustrations, to some sympathetic ears. So I've really enjoyed that. And it's with mine, if you guys have ever seen my YouTube channel compared to everybody else's, I am low tech as it gets. I don't know how to do the editing. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. I just get on there and talk. And, it seems like, there's a segment of the people that sort of like that, sort of that no frills YouTube.
No, it comes off as very authentic, and I think that's what people want. I mean, it's raw, it's pure, and I think you're right. There's something about it that is just it's something that people appreciate hearing. So 36 years is a long time to survive, and I think it's 36 years. I've been doing a lot of math from different places. It's a long time to survive in the bass fishing tournament world. What do you attribute that to?
Man, it's just a lot of it is just a love for the sport. I mean, if you don't have a true love for the sport of competitive fishing, you can't put up with all the downs and the roller coaster ride that comes with it, because it is. I mean, I don't care what level of success that you have, it's a roller coaster, more for some people than others, but I just love it. I mean, I love everything about it. I love how it makes you feel alive and how excited I am to still get out there that first morning of the tournament. And especially those times when you're in the hunt. When you're in the hunt to do well in the tournament, that's when it's the best. And those are those moments that keeps me coming back for it. And it's just something I've always wanted to do since I was a kid. And I've been fortunate enough to get the breaks at the right time to sort of keep me in it, because the industry changes a lot, when it comes to sponsor support and, just the way that it's going. And, I've been really fortunate to be able to do it as long as I have.
I would say one of the things that makes me a Randy Blauket fan is the work ethic. You are one of the hardest working pros on tour. I mean, I know everybody works hard. It's a tough lifestyle. I get that. But throughout your career, you have fished both BASS and FLW, sometimes twice in the same season. This year you're fishing the Central Opens, the Eastern Opens, and you still find time to work on this Fish the Moment YouTube series that you've got going. What has all that been like?
Man, it's no spare time on top of that. I have a 3-year-old son and a 8 and an 11-year-old stepson, that we have to take care of too. So, that's basically what it's like, is I don't have any free time to myself whatsoever. But I'm doing something I really love to do. In addition to fishing the tournaments, the Bassmaster Opens, which I've really enjoyed this year a lot, probably more than any of the events I fished in the past 20 years. I've been able to partner with Johnny Schultz on Fish the Moment. I've known Johnny for a long time, and we're doing a lot of different stuff with his YouTube channel. We're doing the different videos, teaching videos, challenge videos. We're making lake maps. We've got podcasts. We've got virtual seminars. It's just like a one-stop shop for educational teaching. And in the stage that I'm at in my career, that's pretty rewarding to be able to give back, some of the knowledge that I do have, being able to pass it down. And, between Fish the Moment, working for Bridgeford Foods, my title sponsor, fishing the tournaments, taking care of stuff here at the house, I'm busier than I've ever been, ever, you know.
Well, I guess that certainly keeps the guy out of trouble that way, right?
Yeah, I don't have time for anything like that. I mean, it's, you know, it, anymore, it's like I don't even have time to go fishing for fun. I mean, the fishing that I do is usually tournament fishing, practicing for tournament, or filming videos. So that's just sort of where it's at right now.
And I would imagine that's probably a real key too, is to trying to keep the fun in fishing. I mean, sometimes we think about, gosh, if we can only fish for a living. When you fish for a living, it's not the same as fishing for fun, right? It's a little bit different.
Yeah, competitive fishing has it's got a huge range of stressors in it, and to me, most of those stressors revolve around the financial aspect of being able to afford it. Not only afford it, but be able to, you know, just basically pay your mortgage, make your basic living expenses. So for most anglers out there, there's few out there that are financially independent. They don't have to worry about it. But for most people, the stressors that come from tournament fishing is surviving financially, because there's a lot of changes, a lot of challenges in that. The industry is not like it was 20 years ago. So people have to be creative all the time to sort of keep your head above water like that.
Your career has spawned a couple of generations. That's pretty impressive right there. You got your first win at Bugs Island back in Virginia, 1989. Pretty safe to say professional bass fishing was in its infancy back then. I mean, it was established, but it was far different than it is today. In your perspective, how has the sport changed since the 1980s?
Yeah, the biggest thing in it, oh, there's a lot of different things, but the biggest thing is just the amount of competition, the sheer numbers of people that are fishing tournaments more now, and the level of competition. I mean, back when I was starting out back in the 80s like that, I mean, you didn't, it was sort of in its infancy as far as numbers of anglers that actually can make a living at the sport. And that gradually grew as as we grew from bass into FLW, and there was more opportunities for the anglers, more sponsors opportunities. The non-endemic companies started coming in more. So you got more opportunities, but you've also got more competition that makes it harder to stand out. Back when I was starting out in the first 10 years I was fishing, there wasn't that many people that you had to basically beat to stand out in the crowd. And now it's like there's so many circuits, there's so many good anglers. And in addition to the competitive anglers, you have the YouTube personalities. So it's more difficult now than ever to stand out, to potential sponsors within the endemic field. But that being said, there's also more opportunities outside the industry than there's ever been before. So it's turned into more of a business in terms of marketing yourself through social media versus your performance in fishing. Because for any company, I don't care if it's a company like Bridgeford Foods, which is a totally non-fishing related company, or a lure company or boat and motor manufacturer. Social media is more important than tournament performance, simply because you can reach larger numbers of people. So that's probably the biggest change I've seen right there.
That's it's interesting you say that. I can remember in the early 2000s when there was a lot of talk about these non-endemics, and that bass fishing was going to become more and more like NASCAR, and it has. But you're right. Those drivers in NASCAR, they're as much a business person as you are, right?
Yeah, it's completely changed with that. And I don't know, I, you know, I don't know how I feel about that really. I mean, I've sort of like have been forced to adapt to it like everybody else has. But back early on in my career, for like the first 10 years, I was just all about performance and hardcore competition. I didn't want to do seminars. I just wanted to fish. And you just can't do that and survive anymore. The money's not in the purses like they used to be. The entry fees are so inflated now that it's almost impossible unless you win a tournament or two a year to actually survive just off of winnings. So you have to come up with some alternative means to be able to keep pushing forward in this. Uh, and like I said, that there's pluses and minuses to that. One more thing, back to your point, as far as the biggest changes, the technology, as far as lure and electronic technology, that's been the obvious biggest change that I've seen like that. It's just, back when we were, starting out, I mean, you had two flashers, you had no GPS, 150 horsepower limit, 36-pound thrust trolling motor. So it's the equipment and the technology has allowed us to become so effective at catching these bass that it's just there's not much room for error anymore.
I think very few of our viewers will remember. There's a few of us old guys left, but I think a lot of the people that are watching this podcast are much younger. They may not remember or may not know that there was a time when professional bass tournaments featured pro versus pro in the same boat. Please share some of those experiences with us because I know you've got some great stories.
Oh, it was terrible. I mean, there was nothing good about it whatsoever. I mean, back then, when I first started fishing Bassmaster, the only Bassmasters that there were the Bassmaster Invitationals, where there were six tournaments. It was pro paired on pro, and all the Bassmasters Classic qualifiers came out of those six invitationals. And it was terrible because you had half the day to do what you wanted to do. Most of the time there was some conflict going on in the boat as far as who wanted to go to what fish when. And then you always had both people up front trying to compete for the same cover. It was the worst. I mean, absolutely the worst. And I'm so glad that they came up with a pro-am format because pro-am format with co-anglers is the only way to level the competition, level the playing field. Even the co-anglers sometimes create an unlevel playing field. A lot of times they do. Ultimately, like I said, the best thing to be would be just to have observers. I mean, that's the only way to have a level playing field.
I'm sure you have had some draws with some key personalities or big personalities. I mean, talk about. I mean, I read that you've had several times you were paired with Rick Clunn. What was that like?
Yeah, I fished with Rick and I. We've been close friends for 30 years. Vacation together. We've spent a lot of time together. We drew each other out four times in tournaments. One of the times we drew each other out at a Bassmaster Invitational, we were rooming together. We were staying in the same room and drew each other out. So, but I don't like fishing with Rick. I love the guy a lot, but I don't like fishing with him because, like myself and a lot of us, you're a competitor. I mean, you're out there and you have tunnel vision on how you want to fish and how you want to run the day. And when you have another person standing up front with you, it totally messes with you. And Rick is so focused, so analytical, like most people are out there, that it doesn't make for a good day when you're trying to compete 2 foot away from him in the front of the boat.
Are you looking for a bass rod that won't break your bank? Introducing the XT series from Top Tier Tackle. Proprietary carbon nano blank, grade A full cork handle and foregrip, top performance stainless steel, tangle-free guides, lightweight and durable, and a 1-year limited warranty. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Top Tier Tackle LLC. Visit their website at www.t3rods.com. We're talking to 36-year tour pro Randy Blauket. And Randy, in 2006, you made a move to FLW. You had some really good success fishing at FLW. What were those sponsor teams like? You were part of the Fujifilm team, I believe, right?
Yeah, that was the heydays of professional fishing. I'll sort of tell you how that went. I was fishing the Bassmaster top 150s full time when FLW first came out, and they were tightly connected with Ranger boats. And I was, on Ranger's pro staff, and there was quite a few of us that were on the pro staff that had opportunities to, to basically run these sponsor boats. They were vendors that, basically were part of the Walmart tie-in with FLW. And, they had different sponsor teams. I was with the Fujifilm team for almost 10 years, which was a vendor of Walmart, sponsor of the FLW Tour. And that was the first thing that really happened to elevate the sport in a big way. That took the sport from basically anglers having boat and motor sponsorships, tackle company sponsorships, to a true non-endemic sponsorship like Fujifilm. And in doing so, that opened up a lot more ways for anglers to make money. Those companies have big marketing budgets. They weren't afraid to spend it back then. There was about a 5 or 6 year period back in the early 2000s where it was just awesome. I mean, it was really good. There was nearly 60 anglers had sponsor team deals with FLW. Trucks that, you got trucks that came with it. You got boats, you got entry fees, retainers. It was really good. And gradually that went away as the relationship between Walmart and FLW began to erode a little bit. Those deals got fewer and farther between, moving forward from there.
Now, your title sponsor now is Bridgeford Foods, and you've been with them for quite a while. What does Bridgeford Foods have in common with professional tournament angling?
Man, I am so fortunate to be part of Bridgeford Foods. It was the fall of 2012. I had lost my title sponsor like 2 weeks before the season started. Deposits were due. I lost my title sponsor, and so I had nothing with 2 weeks left. And my mom became ill. I had an injury where I had a real bad knife injury on my hand. So I had a lot of different things going on that were not good at the time. And Bass Fan did an article, with me on, hey, for the first time in 20 some years, I may not be fishing next year. And the next day I got a call from Al Bridgeford, one of the owners of Bridgeford Foods, who's a big bass fisherman. And he said, man, he goes, I followed your career forever. He goes, I own 2 Rangers. He goes, and he went back and he could tell me everything that I had done for the last 20 years in fishing. He said, let's talk. And so Al and I talked, and, they've been in the sport ever since. And the tie-in that they have on it is, their product line, beef jerky, summer sausage, pepperoni, all that stuff ties in perfectly to the outdoor market. There's not only the outdoor market and anglers as a target market of Bridgeford Foods, but, the way that we do it as far as our wrap trucks and boats, I mean, driving down the highway, we're exposing the brand to millions of people every year, even if they don't hunt and fish. So, there's a good opportunity for the company there within the endemic side and the non-endemic side to help grow the brand name. And it's, like I said, it's been going on since 2012. Super fortunate, super thankful to be a part of them. We've got 7 anglers on the pro staff now, and everything's just going great with it.
Okay, well that explains it. That's pretty cool to hear. I read an article where you said creativity and imagination is more important than experience in today's bass fishing world. Tell me a little bit about that.
If experience was the only thing, or if experience was the main factor in bass tournament success, there's no way anybody could compete with the veterans like myself or Clunn or Larry Nixon. We'd win everything all the time, but that's not the case. The reality of the sport is when an angler starts to turn about 50 years old, and you can see it even with Kevin Van Dam now. Kevin Van Dam was unstoppable. And now the last 2 or 3 years, he's struggled big time. He's over 50 years old. It happens to everybody as far as you get to that point and you have other things going on in your life. You aren't as sharp. You get locked into things that have worked for you in the past. You're not as open to new techniques and new approaches. And you see the younger anglers start passing you by with doing things and using techniques that I never would have thought about in a million years. These young anglers go out there and, like you said, with their imagination and their creativity, they try stuff that I never would try. They try colors I never would try. They try looking for bass in areas that I never would have thought possible. And from that standpoint, is that fresh, open mind, the creativity that comes with a younger mind that is not polluted with experience, is the thing that is the most important thing in bass fishing by far. And I've seen that over and over and over again. Is youth and creativity and imagination cannot. I mean, experience cannot compete with that. It can occasionally, once in a while, it can, but over the long term, it simply can't, because bass evolved. The pressure that the fish get on evolve. And technology evolves, and and if you get stuck in a rut, where if you get in a deal where, like, you start winning some tournaments on a square bill crankbait, and then all of a sudden you get locked in and you try to force that bite every tournament, then you start having bad tournament after bad tournament, where somebody else goes out there, they'll pick up a drop shot one tournament, they'll flip the next, they'll swim bait the next tournament, whatever the fish want. And that's why youth outperforms experience in the sport. It's really a paradox.
Yeah, that it is, and I think there's a lot to be said, though, also that there is also so much more information out there. I'm sure, I'm sure, like, well, like me, for example, when you were a young person, the only thing you could get was maybe at a Bassmaster magazine, or that was about it. Today, it's all over the place, right?
Well, yeah, it is. The information, simply from the internet, and everything associated with that, the learning curve is not even on the same universe as it was with me. I mean, back when I started out, if you wanted to learn about a technique, you had to go out on the water and fish with somebody that was an expert at that technique, if they would be gracious enough to show you. And now that nobody hides anything, when these anglers watch these tournament videos, there's nothing being hid. They show you exactly on the GPS where these guys are fishing. They show you exactly what they're using. So the learning curve has been really cut in half, with that. But that being said, those younger anglers right now, like your guys like Jacob Wheeler, all those guys that are just at the top of their game, their day is coming. When they're going to be the same people like Clunn and Nixon and Denny Brower and people like that have gotten older, that were a dominating force at one time. They're going to fall by the wayside too, because they're going to get locked into the thing that's worked for them before. And that's just that's just the cycle. That's the balance of life. There's nothing wrong with it. I think a lot of us try to fight that, but I think what is more important, when anglers get to be my age, their value goes from being a consistent top level tournament performer to more of a mentor and a teacher, because there are things that yeah, Jordan Lee may beat me 5 or 7 out of 10 times on the water, but there's things that I can relate to him that he probably doesn't know, that he could add to his arsenal that would even make him more effective. So I think it's important as anglers to as they get older, they need to embrace that experience, and they need to become more of like just the uh, more of the guru than the competitor themselves, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Yoda doesn't go out and fight too many of his own battles, right? He's got other Jedi's to do that for him, right?
He can still get in there and mix it up when he needs to, like a lot of us can. We have, there's days that, the young guys can't beat us at all, but, like I said, that's a good analogy with that.
Hey, we are in the midst of an absolute revolution right now, as I see it. I mean, having looked at the sport for a long time, uh, we are in the midst of a revolution in bass fishing in terms of the impact that's being made by real-time live screen optics in the electronic world. What are your thoughts on this? Is it going in a good direction? I mean, I guess it's going in a direction, so we got to embrace it no matter what. But it's wild.
Johnny Schultz, my partner with Fish the Moment, in my opinion, without a doubt, he's probably the top electronics mind out there. Even though Johnny doesn't fish tournaments by his own choice, but he understands that technology and knows how to use it better than anyone I've seen. So I get a chance to see up close and personal how effective it is, and how it's become such a it is such a dominating part of the sport right now. Personally, for me, if it was up to me, I wouldn't have any of that, because to me, the value in fishing and the thing that makes it attractive and the thing that makes it precious is the connection you have with nature, the purity of it, the healing aspect of it, the therapeutic aspect of it, and the mystery of it. Because fishing is all about a mystique and a mystery. That's the thing that's attractive about fishing. And when you start to have technology like the Garmin LiveScope and other things that are probably going to transcend above that, you take away that mystery and you take away that magic and you take away that therapy that comes with it. And so in my viewpoint, it is not a good thing for the sport. People get ate up with it. And at the last tournament I was at, 95% of the boats had it. I need to get one myself if I want to compete. If I don't have it, I'm going to get left behind. But I think it's a sad situation for the sport that we've got to that level where, we've taken all that stuff that makes this sport so special away from us. And to me, there has to be some point where you just have to say, hey, it's enough. We've gone too far. We got to back off on this, because every other sport does it. There's equipment limitations on every professional sport on this planet, and there needs to be the same in bass fishing. That equipment limitation doesn't need to be with lures or rods and reels like that. It needs to be in the things, the high level tech things like electronics that actually makes a real difference. And on top of that, one of the big reasons and the big things I talk about all the time, it creates an unlevel playing field. I mean, it creates an unlevel playing field about the anglers that can financially afford that. There was this one dude I saw down there at Lake Louisville last week. He had 6 electronic units on his boat. He had 3 graphs on his console. He had 3 graphs on his front. You're talking, close to $20,000 worth of electronics on that dude's boat. Where some other guy out there, I saw some guys like in a 1996 model boat with a 150 on it with 2 little 7-inch flashers, probably because that's all he can afford. So long answer, but in my opinion, it's here to stay, but I wish it wasn't here. I don't think it's a good thing for our sport in the long term.
What's your plan for next year and in the years ahead? You got 36 years in this. Are you going to go another 36 years? What are your thoughts?
Man, it's just hard to say. I don't, like I said, they haven't came out with the schedules next year. A lot of it just depends on how everything unfolds with that. Probably the most, certain path that I have down there is continuing to work with Fish the Moment, Johnny Schultz. I mean, that's the thing that's probably going to be primary to me more above anything else. I still want to incorporate the tournaments with that because I love tournament fishing. It provides good content for our YouTube channel. And I'm not ready to hang that up yet because it's one of those things that still makes me feel really alive out there.
Well, Randy, you are the consummate professional. I have admired what you've done way back in the 80s up to this point. I love the fact that you've now got this teaching element going, because I really think, for new people coming into the sport, they need that. And I think what you're doing is great. Thanks for being with us today, and best of luck to you down the road.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on today, man.
All right, take care.
Okay, thanks.
Tired of the same old, same old? Check out the new Affinity rod series from Top Tier Tackle. Soft touch EVA split grip, custom 30-ton nano blank, C-grade reel seat, top performance stainless steel, tangle-free guides, ultra lightweight, superior impact and fracture resistant, and a limited 3-year warranty. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Top Tier Tackle LLC. Visit their website at www.t3rods.com. Wardrobe for the Bass Tour Anglers podcast provided by Koppel Outfitters. Go have an adventure. Visit them online at www.koppeloutfitters.com and on social media at Koppel Outfitters.